the best thing is this is a home where I think the whole family can rest. Like, because from my understanding, Louise lost her husband, the 3 daughters lost their father, and Rod lost his best friend. They all need to find a place to rest and heal, and before they can step up and continue serving the Lord, because it's really hard to serve when we're hurting. And when they fell in love with the home, I knew that it was a home that God prepared for them.
It's amazing how God brought the desires of our heart with a home just a few minutes away, and giving us property where our lovely dog can run, and for us to actually feel where the girls and all of us can just heal up and just come to finally rest, where emotionally we could just sit outside with a coffee on over an acre of land and just, allow my daughters to heal with the loss of their dad, but to build some new memories.
When she showed me this pictures of the house, Frances just called me, what do you think? And I'm like, you just felt a peace. You just
From the video?
Yeah. She showed me, and I said, Louise, I think, but I didn't want to say anything. And I said, I said, Louise, I said, but do you guys feel a peace? It doesn't matter what we feel, but you could just kind of feel like, I'm like, it could be a God thing.
So my name is Louise Francie, and formerly I was Louise Masters. I just recently got married to a lovely, lovely Christian man named Rod Francie. I met my first husband in youth group, college and careers and youth group back in the late 80s, early 90s. And he went off to Bible school, and he's a very handsome man. It was kind of like a dream. This handsome man swept me off my feet. And we knew that we would do ministry one day. And so we moved to we got married after he was done graduated from Bible college. We thought he'd be a pastor at the time, but life led us on differently. And we ended up doing mission work in Jane and Finch area in Toronto for about 15 years. And that was not easy, and it was not the pretty picture perfect mission, what you think how God is going to use you. But as far as we know, we were faithful in those 15 years when we were there. And still friends to this day of many of the people that we met there. So anyways, fast forward the story. I have 3 lovely daughters. Sarah, who's going to be 21. Janessa, who just turned 18. And Elisa, who is 16, just turned 16. And then in my early 40s is when we got our first townhome, and that was in Mount Albert. So it was neat to have our first little home, and our townhome may not have been glamorous, but it was our first home, and loved that home. And then about 2.5 years ago, we had a bit of a tragedy that hit our home, and my husband Bruce passed away suddenly. But the miracle of that story was we had 2 life insurance policies that, and remember, we lived tight, paycheck to paycheck. Like, we really lived tight. Like, I had to budget for a pizza. Like, it wasn't easy. And what happened was our one life insurance policy ran out in March, I believe. Now, the life insurance agent called me and said, look, your 10-year policy is going to, expire. And I was thinking, wow, he's really healthy. We're both healthy. COVID just hit Canada basically in March. We're thinking we could save this money that we would pay for the policy every month. But I had an urgency in my deep down inside not to go and seek out another policy. Even though my head was telling me, he's healthy, you're healthy, you don't need life insurance right now, I really felt a stirring like, well, what happened was the agent screamed at me on the phone. It was not normal the way she acted. And it made me, I was a little bit perturbed, and I'm thinking, I'm going to prove her wrong. I'm going to show her that we can get cheaper life insurance. But it was really the hand of God, because not knowing 4 months later, my husband was going to suddenly pass away. And what had happened was I found there was about 3 numbers that I was to call for that life insurance policy. And nobody would answer their phone. I'm thinking, does anybody not work? Like, people, these are people that get a hold of. Nobody would answer their phone. But the third guy, he answered his phone. Little did I know he was a born-again Christian, and he felt an urgency to help us. And when I sat down with him, he said, why don't you get enough life insurance? Because I wasn't going to get enough to cover even our mortgage. We had no mortgage insurance from our choice. We had a great mortgage broker, but we didn't choose to go with mortgage insurance. And at that moment, he said, why don't you get enough life insurance to cover the mortgage of your house? Because I wasn't going to. I was trying to nickel and dime and just get what we could afford for that policy. Well, sure enough, we got enough to cover the mortgage, not knowing that 4 months later, tragedy was going to hit our home. Now, during this time, I felt God is so faithful. Even though, I was working 5-6 days a week at the time, and then we slowed down a bit because of COVID, which was lovely to actually be able to stay home. Not saying that COVID was lovely, but having that extra time, being home with the family. But through that time, I felt like there was a whirlwind going on, and I thought, what is going on? And I'm very stable with biblical things. I'm not spooky out there or crazy thoughts about things, but I could physically feel something was changing, not knowing that my whole life was going to be like a whirlwind turned upside down during that time. So fast forward the story, in July, my husband died suddenly. But before that happened, God in his mercy prepared my heart.
They were up at a cottage, and he just died very suddenly. It was devastating to the family. It was devastating to the kids.
It was very difficult. But I can honestly say God was faithful.
Everyone who knew Bruce was just in shock.
I felt really sad for her. I just kept praying for her and her children. Like, may God restore her and heal her.
It was rough. Our world was turned upside down. My Anna Green Gables kind of dream, even my dream of we're a Christian family, we're going to do a lot of things for Jesus together. All of that crashed. My hopes, my dreams, my whole world gone. And then something else tragically happened that I'm not going to share that really rocked my world and truthfully almost tried to destroy me. Rod was a brother in the Lord. My kids actually called him Uncle Rod because I knew him. And my first husband and Rod had done some mission trips together. And the thing is really neat. Some people God brings in your life, and you just love everybody, but sometimes you know that there's somebody in your life that's so special. And I always looked out for Rod as a brother.
I always loved Louise like a sister. I loved my brother Bruce and the family. I was Uncle Rod to the kids.
We always kept in contact, but in the back of my mind, I always looked out for him. I just wondered, how is he doing? And not knowing that would be a little bit of my life. 2.5 years later, now marrying Rod, it was neat how God brought us together. And not easy, not perfect, and coming together both at middle-aged. I'm not trying to say this is the most easiest life. It has been very challenging, but he's one of the greatest blessings to me. He was like an oxygen mask. When Bruce passed away, my first husband, he was there, and Rod was like a rock.
But I also knew that because I lived close to them, I would be visiting them a lot. I did, and visited Louise, and as time went by and she was getting healed up, it seemed like the Lord began to blossom a bit of a romance there, and we kind of felt it was God's hand that he wanted us together. And so we actually pursued that idea, and we ended up getting married. Now what's weird is I've been single my whole life. I was 55 at the time, and though in spite of wanting a wife for many years, I just never seemed to be able to get one. And so this one had the peace of God all over it, so I wasn't afraid. Also amazing about my situation with Louise, even though I had waited so long, and I had dated many really lovely Christian girls over the years, but it just was never right. But I always did want a daughter, and in my 50s I'm thinking, I'm getting kind of up there. I don't even think I can start a family. I don't have the energy for that kind of thing. But God was so gracious to give me someone who is a friend first and foremost, but also has 3 beautiful daughters who are amazing, and it's an incredible blessing.
We love him so much, and my girls adore him, and I'm so thankful for him, because I don't know where I'd be without Rod in my life. And we can say that it's just Jesus, but Jesus uses people, and I'm so grateful for him, because he is a rock. He's a rock spiritually, and emotionally, and he truly loves. And he's a gem of a person. So I'm very grateful for Rod in my life and who God brought. God is faithful, even though sometimes, you're angry at God in ways and like, why, Lord? But we don't see the full picture. Just like a puzzle, you don't see each piece. But when you start to see the master put the pieces of our lives together, we begin to see the beauty that it is, the picture. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful that my house sold in a market that was dropping. She blessed us incredibly with her being so professional and her expertise. And even though at the time before she knew she wasn't going to be our agent originally, she helped me with saying, Louise, change this, knowing that she would get nothing from it.
In Chinese, like it's like a sickness. When you're in a business, you always want to do the same thing. So it's just walking around, pointing out, oh, maybe you can do this, maybe you can do that. For me, it's fun. Yeah, because I'm just saying it. I don't have to do it, right?
She was just amazing and so professional. And then when we decided to change agents, we decided to go with Francis.
And they approached me and asked me to be their realtor. I was very excited because I know how God's been working in their lives, and I know it would be another miracle.
She was unbelievably amazing. God really used her with her expertise and the things that she was able to share and to do to help sell her home.
It wasn't going that well with the realtor that she had chosen, and we were running into some difficulties, and that's where Frances came in. She began to give us free advice on what we could do to make the house more attractive. And we came to realize we really felt God saying, she's the lady. This is the one I want you to have sell the house. As soon as we decided to move, which was hard for Louise because the other realtor there had been friends for a long time, we felt the peace of God immediately descend upon us. And we prayed that God would send someone who loved the house, who really fell in love with her house, and he would bring another buyer, so there'd be a little competition. And that's exactly what God did. He brought someone who loved the house. They said they couldn't afford it. They went away. Then he brought another buyer in who said they wanted to buy the house. Then the previous one who loved the house came back and upped their offer. So it sold in a very hard market. God answered our prayers completely.
And we prayed. And I remember, I think it may have been even Frances, our agent. I think she prayed that, or I know for sure I did, that would be someone that would love our home as much, because that was our home, our first home.
We worked really hard to put the house together, and we brought in the contractor, the designer, and the cleaning team. Everybody worked really hard together, and it was not an easy market because of the interest rate increase and all these policies from the government trying to slow down the market. We were not that hopeful to get really high pricing because it started to slow down quite a bit, and people mostly were lowballing when they're buying. So when we got the first offer, it was quite low. For me, I kind of expected it because that's what people are doing. But for Louise, it's her first home. It's a beautiful home. It's quite disappointing. So we didn't really go with that offer, and I didn't want to push because that's not what my role is like. I'm here to work with my clients. I'm not here to just get the transaction done. So a few days later, we got another offer. It's a little bit better, still not good, but during that negotiation process, I didn't really feel connected with that realtor because we're all like a team. Doesn't matter if you're representing the seller or representing the buyer, we all work together, but sometimes not every realtor works like that. But the miracle happened when the first buyer came back with a much more attractive offer. And I still remember how her agent told me how that buyer was going through a divorce and they had a difficult sale, and it was at Louise's house when she walked in that she felt peace for the first time after the whole journey. And in my heart, I was hoping that she would be the one, but her offer was really low and I couldn't really push her. So when she came back, I was very happy. And in the end, Louise and Rod, they were dating at that time already, so they were doing everything together. Yeah, they decided to sell the house to this client, this buyer, and yeah, she was really happy with the new home.
And the lady that actually bought the house, I keep in contact with her, and she loves that house. so much. And it comforts my heart to know that somewhere where my husband and I, my first husband and I, raised our children for a few years before he passed away, that someone loves it just as much as we did, because the good memories there.
At that time, they were dating, and to sell a home, we need to pack up. And they have a dog, and so they decided to swap homes. So Louise and the 3 girls and the dog moved into Rod's house, and Rod moved into Louise's house to take care of the house, to prepare for every single appointment. And my heart was just so blessed seeing how the 2 of them work together. Seamlessly. They thought about the whole process, and in the end we sold at a price that they were happy with. And yeah, I'm just so grateful to be part of it.
We're really blessed, really grateful for being able to sell this home in a week, or less than a week, in a market that went right down in the month of November, which is one of the hardest months to sell a home. We were able to have the house packed up, cleaned up, staged, and sold in 6 days. And my sister, who's a Christian, she was praying for us, and she really felt the house was going to sell on the Friday, and it sold on the Friday. So it was neat, just neat. And the peace, there was such peace knowing that all of this, and I was working still, and knowing that you have to do all this in 6 days, and to go out and to get fixtures, and also some renovations we also did in just before we put it on the market. We did it so fast, but there was tremendous peace, and that is amazing to have that peace. So, and also a few arguments on the way. In the midst of peace, there's reality of Rod and I looking at each other, thinking, can we do this? But we're so glad we were able to get it done. You don't want to have your house on the market long, because people are coming in and you have to have it prestige and 100% clean. And it was just such a blessing from God. Prayer works. I'm telling you, prayer works, because we didn't have to have the house open so many days for people to come in. And we didn't have to live in upheaval, or the kids going to school and making sure, did you make your beds and everything. It was just sold quickly, and we're grateful for that.
Then they came moving to my house, and my place is really nice, but it's a little small for the girls, not enough parking. And so we, of course, Frances is now a realtor. She did a great job, and we just really felt to get her to help us with that. And we were hoping to sell it later down the road, but then she showed us a house that we really loved nearby. So we basically had about 2 weeks to get the place ready and sold so we could buy this other house. It seems impossible in the market we're in. So in 1 week we got it ready. In 1 week it sold. And that's the hand of God. That is the Lord, 100%.
So we worked really hard to get Rod's house onto the market, because the seller of the new home only wanted us to have 2 weeks to sell the house. We asked for 1 month, but the market was slow, and there were a bunch of other townhomes sitting on the market. I went to see all of them. None of them show as nicely as Rod's house. He has a beautiful end-unit townhome, nicely upgraded. They just put a brand new kitchen, brand new built-in appliances. It's just so beautiful. And I knew the house would sell, but I don't know how long it's gonna take, because the market was much slower and people were still lowballing. And we got quite a favorable response from the neighbors when we did our first open house. We even got the next door neighbor interested, but they had to sell the house. And there are other people who were interested, but they all had to sell the house. So we're praying for a buyer that did not have to sell the house. They would just be able to buy it right away. So when we got our first offer on day 5, they did not have to sell the house. We were okay, but the price was low. And then there's an agent who arranged to show the house the next day. He started calling me, and we started negotiating from the first phone call. And we just kept joking around. That's how we negotiated. And in the end, he asked me, so how much do you want? And he brought us an offer. He said that's the max he could push. He couldn't push higher, because it's not reasonable in today's market. Usually it's under asking price. On top of that, they wanted a fast closing because of the interest rate increase. They locked in at a lower rate. They wanted to close by a certain day so they would not lose that rate. So they allowed us to live in the house for another month for $1,000, which was already amazing with that fast closing. But we thought maybe we could get more. So we went back to ask, so they dropped the rent from $1,000 to $1. So Rod and Louise and the girls can rest in the home for Christmas for another month for just $1. I think it's a huge blessing, and nobody can make these things up. Only God can do it.
What made the sale of my townhouse so amazing is that the market was even tougher than it was when Louise was selling her townhouse. We literally got over asking price, which again is amazing. It sold in 6 days, and it was a tough closing because they wanted us to have 1 month during Christmas to sell our house and get ready. But the person who bought our house literally gave us the option to rent from them for 1 month for $1. So like, this is perfect. You can't make this stuff up. This is a God. This is obviously the hand of God.
Yeah, so I remember Louise calling me after they came back from their honeymoon. They really wanted to see this house. It was a beautiful home and the price was really attractive. But they had to be in quarantine. And I didn't push. Sometimes I would go for a video showing, but I just didn't feel like working. So I'm so sorry, I didn't want to let them know. And we didn't see it, and it was sold. And I felt so bad the whole time because I was like, oh, if I pushed, maybe we could have gotten it. Also at that time, they didn't know about the financing. They didn't get the mortgage approval. At that time, we thought we had to sell Rod's house first. So when we didn't get that home, they kind of started the mortgage approval process. And I remember going to church that one day, Rod said, oh, we did find a way to buy a house before I sold mine. And I was like, oh, okay, that's good to know. So there was this tugging in my heart from the Lord, always reminding me, find them a home, they need space. So one day I went online and I looked, and there was this home that really stood out because it was on a 1.1 acre lot at a price that is similar to other homes, but without the land. And the most attractive thing was this farmhouse-like table in the kitchen, because it reminded me of Louise's style. She's like a rustic style, like beautiful. Everything at home is beautiful. So I sent the listing to them together with a bunch of other listings that are similar price. It would fit their price range. And I remember Rod messaging me, is it 1.1 acre that I said, was it correct? I said, yeah, and it was not the top listings, was one of the lower, like there were a bunch of them. And I didn't want to push again. I just let them think about it, and they said they wanted to see it. So we went to see it, I think the next day, and they liked it, and I'm happy. I still remember that house got an offer before, and it was really low. The sellers felt insulted. So that kind of set a stage for us. So we also went in low, but not as low as the other one. I think we got it at a very good price. Louise would keep asking me, did I get it at the right price? I would say, I could have done better, but I think it's a really good price. I think we bought it under market value, which is good because the market is lower. And when they fell in love with the home, I knew that it was a home that God prepared for them.
Miss Elisa, are you happy about this?
Oh yeah, me too.
And it was for the girls too. Like the girls, it just, you kind of felt as a family when we walked into Rod's house, it just didn't feel like it was it wasn't their home. And this feels like a new beginning for the entire family.
I understand Rod and Louise's heart, and the Lord promised that He's close to the brokenhearted. So when I walked with them, I could see God's hand so closely in every single step. It's not just buying and selling, it's how faithful God was and how sweet He was. So the little things like the pool table that Rod liked, and even the lawnmower. I don't know how that got into the picture, but God just answered every single thing. And Louise wanted more rooms for the girls, so it's a 4-bedroom, and then there's an office. It's just so perfect. And despite how slow the market is, I hear realtors out there complaining all the time, oh, nobody's buying a listing, oh, it's sitting on the market, we had to reduce the price, but not for Rod and Louise. Both of their homes got sold over market or close to market. there's multiple offers in today's market. It's just not possible. But in God, everything is possible. That's what I was saying. This is a picture that I saw as a nest, a place for rest, and also for new birth.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah, really, truly, you know, I just, it's beautiful. It's amazing how the Lord fits the pieces of the puzzle, you know? But you walk in excellence, and I know, yeah, you're phenomenal. You really are. I always wanted a family, and it felt like when my husband passed away, my biggest dream was gone. And to know that God can restore a beautiful family is a miracle. And I'm living a miracle, right? And I know that God is no respecter of persons. The biggest thing we have to do is run to Him and say, Jesus, I need your help. I need you to restore. I need you to pick up that piece of the puzzle and be the masterpiece of my life again. Because God does. There's no way I would ever have dreamt that my life would have been like this. And it's a journey, but He's still putting the pieces of my puzzle together. It's a beautiful picture. And the rest of the story is going to be unfolded before us.